So, Pnawn da pawb, good afternoon everybody, and welcome to this extraordinary meeting of the North Wales Fire and Rescue Authority. I'd like to welcome all the members and officers here that are present. I'd also like to welcome Mr. Matt Ryan as the FPU Secretary for North Wales. I'd also like to welcome Mr. Dan Stevens, who is the Senior Fire Advisor to the Welsh Government. Also, I understand we'll be watching Audit Wales, who are actually at the moment carrying out a review into the governance of fire and rescue authorities. And for the information of members, they did interview myself and the Deputy Chair in relation to that review last week. And finally, can I also welcome all those who are watching this meeting, which is being streamed on YouTube as we speak. If I could just deviate from the minutes of the agenda for a moment, on a personal note, I'd just like to offer my sincere thanks to all the firefighters who attended at the serious fire in Llangefni on my patch last night, an extensive fire in the old police station and the old court buildings in Llangefni. And there was 5 pumps and 2 aerial ladder platforms in attendance. And they did a marvelous job of containing the fire and making sure that it didn't spread to any surrounding properties. And I have been this morning to thank the crews that are still in attendance. And I got excellent feedback as well in terms of how well the staff in the control room performed as well in terms of coordinating the response. And I think it just epitomizes the professionalism and the dedication of our firefighters. So, diolch yn fawr pawb. Thank you, everybody. So back to the agenda. Apologies. Have we received any apologies, please, Lisa?
No, I don't have any apologies.
Okay, thank you. Are there any declarations of interest? No, I can't see anybody raising their hands. Item 3 is notice of urgent matters. I haven't received any notice of urgent matters. So we go on to item 4, which is the main item on the agenda, which is to see if we can make a decision on which option to implement from the emergency cover review. And I'm going to hand over to Deputy Chief Fire Officer Stuart Forshaw to present the paper, please. Thank you, Stuart.
Diolch, Cadeirydd. Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to provide members with an update following the 9th Fire Authority member-led Emergency Cover Review Working Group, and to enable a decision to be taken regarding a revised operational response model for North Wales Fire and Rescue Service. Members are aware that the key objective of the Emergency Cover Review was to consider the current arrangements and to recommend options to provide a fair, sustainable and equitable emergency response across North Wales, balancing demand, current and future community risks. In order to develop options for the Fire Authority to refine and consult the public on, a sector leader organisation who helps emergency services across the UK and around the world were engaged to provide factual, independent, evidence-based modelling of a number of different operational response scenarios developed during the working groups. Considering their advice and applying a level of professional judgment, the Fire Authority agreed in its meeting on the 17th of July to consult the public on 3 options of how emergency cover may be delivered in North Wales. After receiving feedback from the public and many other stakeholders during the 10-week consultation, at the Fire Authority meeting in October, officers were instructed by members to no longer undertake any further work on 2 of the 3 options that were consulted upon, these being options 2 and 3, but they continued to refine option 1. At the working group on the 27th of November, the service presented the refined enhanced option. This is referred to as option 1A, which includes Rhyl and Deeside changed to a day crewing duty system staffed 24 hours a day and night by full-time firefighters. This was no change from option 1. WDS Rural Team are relocated. Again, this was no change from option 1. Porthmadog and Dolgellau fire stations changed to day staffing. Again, no change from option 1. Wrexham's second whole-time fire engine will continue to provide support to the South Denbighshire area as and when required, in the same way as they currently do. This is different to option 1, but the same as existing utilisation. And an additional day staffing station is to be located at Llangefni. Again, this is different to option 1, but utilising all existing staff to provide an enhanced model in the next priority strategic location, underpinned by an evidence base. These enhancements of option 1A, through an additional day staff fire station being located in Llangefni, include a greater number of households that could be reached within the maximum 20-minute response time. 5,265 households compared to option 1, 2,148. There'd also be increased daytime resilience at Anglesey when considering current and future risks, and a greater number of homes that would receive safe and well prevention interventions, specifically on Anglesey. There'd also be better interaction with local businesses to gather vital risk information for firefighters, and a greater opportunity for social value to be added through future employment opportunities in a wider number of locations within North Wales. At the same working group, the FBU presented an option that they referred to as option 4. This was an updated option from the previous version presented to members on the 7th of November, indicating that this was their preferred option for members to consider. In developing the 3 options, the service has also undertaken an equality impact analysis and an equality impact assessment of the emergency cover review. And that's included in today's papers, which describes for members the impact and mitigation for the concerns raised about the 3 options presented during the consultation, to satisfy the authority's public sector equality duty and also follow best practice. Members have also been provided with an addendum to the independently produced Emergency Cover Review Consultation Finding Report, which was previously presented at the meeting of the Fire Authority on the 16th of October. This is to assist members in their decision making and also conclude the requirements of the formal quality assurance process that has been overseen by the Consultation Institute, who have awarded the authority with a certificate of good practice for all elements of the consultation, providing us with confidence that the equality analysis is comprehensive and the consultation follows best practice. The member-led working group extended to the full Fire Authority met again on the 4th of December, during which the outcomes of the member-led budget scrutiny working group was presented and debated. Confirmation was also provided that option 1, the refined version referred to as option 1A, and the FBU option referred to as option 4 could all be achieved within the same or very similar cost envelope, albeit with different levels of operational cover and operational resilience aligned to each option, recommending that this decision is an operational matter. During the meeting, the Chief Fire Officer reminded members of the reason that the emergency cover review was originally instigated, in order to address the challenges with our on-call availability in rural locations, especially during the day, so as to provide a more fair and equitable level of operational response across the region, ensuring that North Wales Fire and Rescue Service has available resources in the right place, at the right time, with the right skills. Officers also relayed the outcome of an assessment of the Fire Brigade Union option 4 against the emergency cover review evaluation criteria, which it was found did not meet the aims of the emergency cover review, specifically in not providing a resilient emergency cover and not providing a fair and equitable service to the communities across the whole of North Wales. Moreover, officers relayed that the analysis showed that it offered a lesser level of emergency cover, specifically during the day, than both options 1 and 2 presented to the public during the consultation, and has less flexibility during the day than the current response model already in place. And this is summarised in sections 45 to 47 of the report. Therefore, officers were asked to seek legal advice as to the position in relation to progressing with the Fire Brigade Union option 4, which has highlighted that if this option were to be implemented or proposed for public consultation, the Fire Authority will be taking a decision that is not supported by public opinion, was contrary to professional advice, and may be at risk for judicial review on the grounds detailed in sections 23 and 24 of the report. Therefore, it is recommended that members, 1, note the legal advice that the Fire Brigade Union option 4 cannot be recommended because to adopt it would result in an operating model that is worse than the current one and worse than option 1 and 1A, and in doing so may expose the authority to legal challenge. 2, that members officially reject option 2. 3, that members officially reject option 3. And 4, members agree to implement an improved variant of option 1, this being option 1A. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you, Stuart. Before I throw it open to members for their comments and questions in relation to the recommendations, I'd like to invite Mr. Matt Ryan to address the members. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Chair. One moment, I'll pull up my document. So first off, I'd like to thank you all for your interest and consideration of the emergency cover review. It has been a long and demanding process, and one I am sure we all will be glad to see resolved. Before I continue, I want to personally thank Stuart Stanley for his incredible effort and sacrifice he has given during this review. I have seen firsthand, as will many of you and fire crews and communities alike, and we owe him our thanks for his hard work. The last 6 months have levied a heavy toll on the communities under threat and the staff who will be affected. We should acknowledge the hard work and dedication our frontline firefighters have shown to help shape the outcome of this review. They have united in a rebuttal to the downgrading of fire stations and the reduction in standards of fire cover that option 1 and 1A represent. They have stepped up to this challenge because they know how dangerous and foolhardy options 1 and 1A are. It is these brave men and women with a conscience who will have to deal with the consequences of a delayed turnout. They are our vanguard of our emergency response here in North Wales. And they have no faith in the options proposed by our management team. We aren't deliberating on the closure of a library or how often bins should be emptied. You are being asked to make a definitive decision on the reduction of fire cover in 2 of our busiest stations, areas with large, strategically valuable industry and areas that have been steadily persistent on the Welsh Deprivation Index. Of all towns in North Wales, they, along with Wrexham, merit the security of a fast and guaranteed response. And that is why they are where they are, operating the way they currently do. We all recognise the need to act on the poor standards of fire cover in our rural areas, and this can be achieved without impacting the standards we currently have. This isn't about money or work conditions or resources. This is a moral question of taking from one community with needs to assist another. If there was no other way to resolve this dilemma, then perhaps, yes, we should consider doing this. But there is a way forward where we can support our communities in need. We can readily improve standards in Corwen and Porthmadog by using elements of option 1. We could have fire crews stationed there from early 2024 onwards, ready to serve during the daytime, and our retained colleagues in the evening. This will be an immediate and substantial improvement, and one that addresses the legal imperative you are faced with. And that leaves us then with Dolgellau. There are ways and means we can work collaboratively to support that station, which does not rely on a reduction of standards and the downgrading of either Rhyl or Deeside. These measures are a compromise and a way forward that is supported by staff and the Fire Brigade Union. Last night's fire in Llangefni serves as a timely reminder for the need to maintain our 3 24-hour stations. Crews from Rhyl attended with both the Instant Command Unit and Aerial Ladder Platform, 2 strategic assets within our service. They spent the entire night at the scene of operations, supporting the crews in the western edges of our service, with the Command Unit returning at 7:30 this morning and the Aerial Ladder Platform returning just half an hour ago. A downgraded station would mean that these crews would be expected to remain on duty on their return to station. They would perhaps be able to have some rest period, but if another call came in and the specialist appliances were needed, they would have to respond. These occurrences are rare, but they happen. Our dedicated crews will always respond, but let's not place their ability to do so in jeopardy or introduce unnecessary risks. I would like to finish on a note of optimism, particularly in this season of giving. Let us give the security and reassurance that the communities of Deeside, Rhyl, and all other places deserve. Let us look into next year, not on a path of uncertainty or doubt, but on a renewed path of confidence. Confidence that we are making the right moral choices. Confident that we are sticking true to the original aim of the emergency cover review, to improve availability for all without taking a step backwards. Option 1 and 1A is a step backwards. Thank you and goodwill to all. Diolch.
Thank you, Matt, for presenting us with the views of the FBU. As chair, I am uncomfortable about the fact that at the last working group meeting that members attended, that it was decided that option 4 from the FBU would also be on the table today, but as you've heard, that has been taken off the table for legal reasons. Before I throw the meeting open for debate, I'd just like to ask the clerk to the authority, Mr. Gareth Owens, if he could just confirm the legal situation regarding that, please. Thank you, Gareth.
Diolch, Cadeirydd, Penandol members. There's brief advice within the paper, which I'll supplement now, Chair. We have taken detailed legal advice underpinning that, and that's been circulated to all members today. So they've had a chance to see that. If anybody wishes to discuss that in more detail, Chair, I'd ask that we move to closed session in order to protect legal privilege. But broadly speaking, Chair, there are 4 issues. Firstly, that councillors are on the Fire Authority to represent the region as a whole, not their ward, not their constituent council. And in that regard, they need to consider and try to address the disparity in cover between rural areas and the largely urbanised coastal strip, which, you know, we've seen quite clearly marked out through this process. The authority undertook the emergency cover review in order, as the Deputy Chief Fire Officer said, to try and introduce more fair and equitable cover across the region. And you will have heard his advice and his commentary that options 1 and 1A achieve those aims, but that option 4 does not. It would provide us with 1 additional station a week, not 3, and would result in the utilisation of the whole time reserve, so there would be no flexibility to address shortfalls in cover elsewhere. That, Chair, particularly that last point, would leave us in a worse position than we are at the moment following interventions, and that is the key point as to why, as officers, we say it undermines the aims of the emergency cover review. The authority chair must act reasonably, as we know it's a public authority, and to adopt an option which undermines the stated aims of the emergency cover review would not be held reasonable if it were challenged in the courts. This isn't simply a lesser option, Chair. This isn't one where we might balance off options. This is one that actively leaves us in a worse position than we are at the present day. And so for that reasonable, the legal advice we have given is that that option is not a viable option.
Thank you, Gareth, for that clarification. I'm going to open it up to members now for comments. And can I ask you to be as concise as possible, because we do have another meeting following this meeting, though I do want to give members the opportunity to obviously contribute. So I think first with his hand up was the Deputy Chair, Councillor Paul Cunningham. Paul?
Diolch yn fawr, Cadeirydd. May I just say I would like to move the recommendations 1, 2, 3 and 4 that the Deputy has highlighted. And can I give a bit of background now why I'm saying that, Chair, or can I come in later?
No, by all means proceed.
Chair, as you know, I'm a former firefighter, having served at both Deeside and Rhyl. I know it was a long time ago, but the same things happened in those days that are happening now. I also carried out retained duties whilst off duty during my time at Deeside at Flint Fire Station, which, as you know, is a retained duty system station. During my time at Rhyl, I served as an operational firefighter, and I also spent 7 years in the fire service training school that was there. So I know a little bit about how the service works. If I can just give a little bit of history, Chair, if you can be so. If, as a fire authority, we had a blank canvas to start afresh, we would pick the most efficient and effective ways to site our fire stations to give the residents of North Wales the best fire cover that we can. But alas, we haven't. We have probably historically the fire stations that we've got were there from after the Second World War, where the government gave the local authorities the right to pick their fire stations or cite their fire authorities. And if you look at it, we cited them, or they cited them then. So a lot of the fire stations that we've got were built and designed to serve communities after that. Then in 1974, Chair, we had reorganisation. So we saw the demise of the old Flintshire, the old Denbighshire and Montgomery Fire Service, the Caernarvonshire and your own island of Anglesey, Chair. They became larger authorities. We, Flintshire and Denbighshire, we became Clwyd. So the fire stations that we had were the fire stations that were there from Clwyd, from Deeside and Montgomeryshire and Flintshire. And then in 1996, again, with reorganisation, we became a bigger authority. So all these fire stations are there. They're historic fire stations, apart from some that might have been built during that time. You know, if we had a blank canvas, Chair, we could do it. You know, we could cite our fire stations, but unfortunately we haven't. So that's the reason why I'm moving this now. We haven't on option, on the recommendation that the DEP has given. I think that's the best option that we can achieve. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Paul. I have a proposer for the motions. The next person to speak, Councillor Jeff Evans, and then Councillor Marion Bateman. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'm taking cognizance of what Gareth in governance, where he referred to councillors having to have regards to the old service rather than support solely their own area. And it is totally and honestly with that in mind that I believe that no decision should be reached today, no option be determined, and no vote take place. I believe the only way forward is a postponement while we continue to investigate the way forward. And the reason behind that, and I'm reading off a book in front of me, which I've put together over the last few weeks, and I have many letters as I propose. I expect most of you have had, and I've had representation from Rhyl, Deeside, Caernarfon, Holyhead, Cheshire, Ceredigion, Wrexham, Porthmadog. I've had them from firefighters, from crew managers, from managers, operation officers, incident managers, public homeowners, and council representation. And when I list them all, and I've listened to what has been said about option 4, out of every one of those, every single one of those says do not vote for option 1. Option 4 is the only one which gives us a security of the North Wales Fire and Rescue Service for the benefit of the people who live therein. A councillor contacted me in regards to Llangefni and said that some of their people didn't even know about aspects of this till last Wednesday. These are retained staff and some potential changes as may affect them, and an indication that en masse there may be a total demise of the service because these people are going to resign. They're going to leave the service. And I'm not happy with that. What I'm looking for is a service which meets the needs of the public, meets the needs of the relative areas, meets the needs of the fire service and crews that we respect, as occurred in Llangefni last night, referred to by Dylan Rees. But I am saying to you, if there is a belief out there, because I've even visited a fire station today, there is a belief that even on the vote, which was 68% voted for option 1, that the public weren't given the full message as to the effects and how it will affect their particular area. There is a belief that this isn't for the benefit of the fire service and to improve safety, but one that is led by financial constraints. Now, I'm not all the belief for that. I believe it's been done openly, honestly, as well as it could, and scrutinised. But I still believe at this moment in time that I don't think we're really in a position to take a vote because we are going to demoralise the services. Why are all those fire stations senior managers who are writing in to all of us saying no? They're saying, you know, we need to review it. And if the fire brigades union comes up with a plan, it is in conjunction and cooperation and support of each other that we should cooperate to find the way forward that will meet the majority of the needs for all sides. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry I went on a little bit long, but I have got pages of this information. I'm not going to disclose the names because maybe they wouldn't want me to. But
no, thank you, Councillor Evans. I think we've all had similar correspondence. Thank you for that. Thank you for your comments. Councillor Marion Bateman.
Thank you, Chair. I will do as I'm told, and I will be concise. If Councillor Jeff Evans was making a proposal there, I'd like to second him, if I may, that we do go out to further consultation on options 1A and 4, the FBU 4, and I would like a recorded vote, please. Thank you.
And to come back in, I will make that a proposal, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
I need to turn to the clerk as to whether or not we can accept that proposal under standing order. So can you come in, please, Gareth? Thank you.
So 2 things, Chair. We need to know whether there is a seconder for the motion moved by Councillor Cunningham, because, Chair, if one were being picky about the rules, I would say that no member is allowed to speak until a motion has been moved and seconded. Now, you weren't to know when you called Councillor Jeff Evans what he was going to say. So, you know, that's one of those rules that you have to be practical about. Now, I saw Councillor Gareth Jones indicating when I mentioned seconder, and I see him nodding now. So I suspect you may have a seconder. We then have a situation, Chair, and this is always a judgment for the Chair. You've got a second motion on the table. Is that going to be treated as an amendment, or are we going to disallow that because it simply negatives the first motion? Couple of ways of dealing with that, Chair. You could say you're going to disallow it, but what you'll do is you'll take the vote on the first motion to see whether that succeeds. If it doesn't, we'll then allow Councillor Evans to put up his motion, and we just do it sequentially. Alternatively, Chair, what you can do is you could treat Councillor Evans' motion as an amendment, and if it is successful, then it becomes the substantive motion, and to all intents and purposes, we defer the debate. And if it is not successful, we then revert back to the motion as moved by Councillor Cunningham. On balance, Chair, I think deferral isn't strictly a negativing of the original motion, but in these circumstances where you effectively only have one option on the table, I think it probably is a negativing, and it might be better, Chair, to take the vote sequentially, but that's your choice. Final point, Chair, is of course that Councillor Bateman asked for a recorded vote. Councillor Bateman can ask for her own vote to be recorded, and we will do so. If Councillor Bateman wishes to have everyone's vote recorded, the nine other members will need to indicate. That is to say that we need 1/3 of the membership of the authority to vote for that. So, Chair, perhaps what you might do is ask people to indicate using the electronic raised hand function. And you know, we can take a note, can't we now, Chair, of the order in which people want to speak, ask them to put their hands down, and then ask everybody else who wishes to support a recorded vote to vote using their electronic hand. Raise the electronic hand so that we've got a clear indication of whether there are 10 members supporting that proposal, Chair.
Thank you very much, Gareth. Okay, the first thing is I'm going to take your advice, although it wasn't 100% clear, but you certainly were sort of moving more towards that you think that the current amendment negates the original proposal, and it's easier just to sort of keep to the original proposal. If people aren't happy with the original proposal, which has now been seconded, they can obviously vote against it and it will fall. In terms of I'm going to ask now, we're not going to the vote now, but can you all put your hands down for a moment? And I'm going to ask if you want a recorded vote to raise your electronic hand.
I got the point of drefn, Mr. Cadeirydd.
Yeah, go on.
Diolch.
May I raise a point of order, Mr. Chairman? On a recorded vote, I have nothing against a recorded vote, fundamentally, but I do have something against wasting time. Now, my understanding of the way this happens in Gwynedd Council, if someone makes a request under the Information Act as to how people have voted, the results are available anyway if we ask for a recorded vote or not. The officers will know who has voted which way, and they will have to give that result to whomever asks about it. Now, if that is true in the authority, I would then vote against asking for a recorded vote because it's a waste of time. If it's not true in this authority, then I'm happy to support, but I don't like to waste time in order to waste time. Thank you.
The same rules would apply, Gareth, wouldn't they?
Could you give me a synopsis of what he said?
Yeah, so what Councillor Gwynfor was saying was that even if you had, if you didn't have a recorded vote, but it was just an electronic vote, under the Freedom of Information Act, members of the public could still ask who voted which way, so the information would be disclosed anyway. So Councillor Owen was saying that, in one sense, we're just wasting time. But there has been a request made for a recorded vote. So I will ask now, if you want a recorded vote, will you please raise your electronic hands? Okay, we have more than 10 people indicating, so it will be a recorded vote. Okay, so thank you for that. So back to the debate on the proposal. It's just the one proposal in terms of the 4 recommendations that you see before you. Who would like to speak, please? I've got Councillor Mark Young showing. Thank you, Mark.
No, my hand should be down. I'll come in later if needed.
I think Councillor Mark Jones had his hand up before. Mark, do you want to come in?
Yeah, too many marks. I actually would like to propose amendment to the first motion of the first clause of the motion. I think we're all happy with the other 3, and I'd like to explain why. The amendment is that we take option 4 out to further consultation, and subject to that public consultation coming back favourably, we implement option 4. If there is not a favourable response, then we can refer to option 1A. And I'd like to discuss whether that satisfies the legal concerns raised by the legal team. Obviously, our role is to scrutinise and to challenge, and I am loath to challenge legal expertise, but I feel we have to in the light of what we've been sent today. I think it's only fair. So basically, the legal advice states that option 4 is worse than option 2. Now, option 2 sought to cut 1 in 8 firefighters' jobs and downgraded cover in Deeside, Vril and Wrexham. So I'd like to ask the legal team whether they can explain how that is option 4 is worse than option 2, which is something that the management team did put out to consultation. If option 4 is in breach of the Fire and Rescue Services Act 2004, which it stated it may be in today's report, then that suggests that we're currently operating unlawfully. So can the legal team reassure us that we are currently lawful? Management in backing option 1A appears to take a view that improving excuse me, daytime cover in Dolgellau and Porthmadog is more important than maintaining on-site nighttime cover in Deeside and Vril. I think this is divisive when there is an option to do both in front of us. And I'd also like some clarification in terms of the threat of judicial review. The threat of judicial review would be because we had not consulted on option 4. And there was a good reason for that, because option 4 wasn't on the table when we went out to consultation earlier this year, because the FBU had not been part of discussions. Now, this authority instructed management to reset that relationship in November's meeting. And I'll be honest with you, I had hoped there'd be greater compromise to reach a mutually acceptable option. That doesn't seem to have taken place. So my third question to the legal team is, if we were to go out to consult on option 4, would we still, in their view, face a legal challenge for improving the current service? Because I think, as Jeff alluded to, what's become very clear is the unintended consequences of making changes that don't work for frontline firefighters, and that can be detrimental to the future of the fire service. I'm afraid this adds risk by losing that experience, that professionalism, and that great unknown staff goodwill and morale. And that hasn't been calculated in this consultation. We've all heard from frontline firefighters of their concerns, both in terms of RDS leaving as a result of some of these proposals, as well as the skills and experiences that will be lost. And that undermines us being a resilient service. And that's at the heart of this emergency cover review. So I'm sure members will be reluctant to go against this legal advice. But so that's why I've asked for clarification from Gareth on this. But I really do fear that if we are forced to accept option 1A, then I fear we're making a bad decision for the entire region. We're downgrading one area to upgrade another, and that's not improving the service. It's been mentioned before, robbing Peter to pay Paul, and I don't think we want to do that. We want an equitable service, but that is different from being an equal service. And I think we have to take into consideration the risks in higher density, high-rise, more deprived areas. And therefore, that's why I'm moving this amendment.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. I think a number of points there that you raised. So it's back over to Gareth. If you're able to respond to those queries, please, Gareth. Thank you.
So thank you, Chair. In responding to those, what I would say is that I did not compare option 4 to option 2, Chair. I compared option 4 to the current level of staffing that we are able to maintain after intervention. Members will recall that when looking at this, we looked at the base level of cover when stations are not, for whatever reason, on the run, and then there is an enhanced level of cover after management within the fire service have been able to deploy whole-time rural employed firefighters who are there to provide mobile cover, peripatetic cover, and the use of overtime and so on that brings the levels of cover up. So that is effectively, for us, the status quo at the moment, which is base level of cover plus interventions. That's the level of cover we provide now. That level of cover that we provide now is unequal across, and there are disparities across North Wales, as you will have seen from the maps. Yes, that creates a risk for the authority now. You would understand that. Large parts of Anglesey, large parts of the south and the west of the region frequently lack the same levels of cover. So there is an inequality of cover comparing areas of similarity. So the threat of judicial review is not just because we haven't consulted on option 4. We started the conversation with external lawyers on the basis that, well, look, if we consulted on option 4, we've got option 4. Do we need to go out to consultation on it? And it got into and that became a more fundamental discussion about the flaws that I have just outlined in option 4 itself. And it is the fact that option 4 suffers those more fundamental flaws that first and foremost make it a threat to the a legal threat to the authority, and those would not be cured by consulting on option 4. Indeed, consulting on an option that is not a realistic or viable option, and that would only serve to undermine cover compared to current levels of cover, could in itself be seen as something that wasn't a reasonable choice by the Fire Authority Chair. I'm trying to, Chair, we've had this conversation, Chair, and the legal terminology is irrational, it's technical, and all the rest of it. It's, I don't want to use that term, but from a professional perspective, that encapsulates a wide range of concepts in a rather brusque and cold-hearted way, which is often the case for legal terminology. But it would be deemed irrational in the sense that it is outside the range of reasonable decisions that a decision maker might make. And so when I gave my initial advice, I said, look, we're not talking about a situation here where this is a balancing of a sort of balancing of risk a reasonable balancing of risk and different perceptions of risk across different areas. What option 4 does, it makes the situation across the whole of North Wales worse than it is now. So there's no step towards, there isn't even a partial step towards achieving the outcome of the emergency cover review. There's a backward step.
So, Gareth, can you also comment on the fact that Councillor Mark Jones wanted to move an amendment? Can you advise as to whether or not I should accept the proposal to amend the first part of the recommendations?
That would very clearly be a negative of option 1. So that wouldn't be a valid amendment. That's, I would say, Chair, that would be something that you should treat sequentially. But given what I've said about option 4, inevitably, I am going to say to you that is not an option that members should be moving because of the risks to the authority.
Okay, I've got to take the clerk's advice in relation to that, Mark, so I won't be accepting the amendment, but obviously you can still vote down the recommendations as they stand at the moment. I've got some other hands raised. The executive panel meeting is supposed to take place at 1 o'clock today. I certainly don't want to rush this, so we will move that back to 1:30, but bear in mind we have to go through the voting process. I am eager that we try and move things forward. And just for the members of the public watching, just to be aware, it's not as if these issues haven't been discussed in depth before today. We've had 9 working group meetings to discuss these issues. The last 3 were open to members from the whole of the authority. Councillor Gareth Jones. Diolch, Gareth.
Diolch. I'd just like to confirm that I definitely second Councillor Paul Cunningham's proposal. And to put it briefly, I'd just like to give some reassurance that, I live in Conwy and the cover in Llandudno and Colwyn Bay works. And that's, as I understand it, is what is being proposed. The same sort of cover has been proposed for Rhyl and Deeside. I've spoken to some firefighters, who've really concerned me when they say there are times when there are only 2 people available in stations like Dolgellau. So I think we definitely need to do something. So I think we should just take the emotion out of all this, look at the facts and reach our decision on that, which to me ties in with Councillor Paul Cunningham's proposal. Thank you.
Yeah, Gareth, and Councillor Paul Cunningham has pointed out to me, I said that the executive panel meeting will now push back to 1:30, 2:30, I meant, of course. Councillor Beverly Jones.
Thank you, Chair. Well, what can I say? At risk of sounding like a cracked record, in my opinion, I can't for the life of me understand why option 4 was never ever put into the consultation from day 1. I would like to see it there on the table, as I do believe it is a valid option. We've heard words about fundamental flaws. And okay, Chair, I'm a lay person, but I am really, really struggling to see where those fundamental flaws in option 4 are. And I'd like maybe Gareth, if he could clarify that for me. I can't help feeling either, and this is only my opinion, but I'm sitting here for I don't know how many times this afternoon, and we're going over old ground. For whatever reason, and it is my opinion, and I've said it before, that this is a done deal and that members of this board will sit here and until we're browbeaten into submission, we're not going to move forward. Now, I cannot for the life of me think, why can't we go back out to consultation, start again and move on and include option 4? That's only my opinion, Chair, but that's where I am. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barry Jones. I'm not going to go and ask the clerk again because, to be fair to the clerk, I think he has already covered as to why option 4 has had to be rejected on legal grounds. So I'm going to invite Councillor Gwynfor Owen to come in. Thank you, Gwynfor.
Diolch yn fawr, Mr Cadeirydd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's incredible that members who sat on the working group that looked at this have come up with recommendations after the working group have, and if they felt so strongly about other options, they ought to have got in touch with the union earlier, asked for options earlier, so that those options would have been put forward in the first place, so that it would have been possible to look at those options in earnest, if they are options to be looked at seriously. And I also see it as incredible that some members feel that they can go contrary to the legal officer, having had such clear responses from the legal officer on this issue. It's a matter of sadness to me that some members feel that they should still argue against the opinion of the legal officer on this point. To go back, it's my pleasure to support the recommendations, and thanks to Paul Cunningham for proposing them. If I can remind people of what this means, and the whole purpose of this work was to look at creating a better service and a more equal service across the north. So, across the north, if this option 1A is carried, it does mean that 5,000, almost 5,500 places, extra places are available within 20 minutes. 5,500 in addition. That's something that I think that no one can ignore. It also, more importantly, that there are also more places where there is additional preventative and protection work. I think that's more important than anything, that we can stop these fires from happening by having that additional work. And so I would just ask, please, that you support option 1A and all of the recommendations. Thank you. Thank you, Gwynfor.
Owen is very supportive of the recommendations contained. Councillor Rhonda Roberts.
Yes, thanks, Chair. Good afternoon. I just feel what's been said across the meeting this afternoon, I would just like to reiterate what Councillor Evans brought up and what Councillor Jones has added to. And I just feel that, you know, we are being rushed and railroaded into a decision here where I just think it's going to be detrimental and reckless by the SLT to push this with support of certain members to downgrade at Rhyl and Deeside. And, you know, it's all going to come down to costs, and the costs can be found and saved in other areas, like I have mentioned in meetings previous. But I just feel that the Fire Brigade Union option 4 was brought in very late in the game. They didn't consult with the Fire Brigade Union after the meeting. Forgive me if I don't get the dates right, but when they give the presentation, which was a detailed response backed up by statistics, not you know, bit from freedom of information. The information was out there in the public domain, but what we've been given by the Fire Brigade Authority is their estimations on what's going to be done moving forward by relocating these stations. We're not taking into account the manning, which is at an all-time, the morale is on the floor. There's seasoned firefighters of 10, 20, 30 years possibly, considering their options and their places and their employment in the event of option 1A having to be accepted. Now, legalities, the chief officer has said about certain legalities that is why option 4 isn't acceptable, which I find very hard to believe. But if we want to go down the consultation route, we've never consulted the public on option 1A. That wasn't on the table when this went to public consultation. So there's flaws and holes everywhere in this debate again today. And I just like to reiterate what Councillor Evans said. We need to discuss it more, not to rush into a decision today, because I feel that we've been railroaded and pushed down a track. And basically the people delivering the service and boots on the ground know far better than the people sitting around this table. And I just think that there's more discussion needed. The union must be involved, the senior leadership team and the fire authority members, because it's a monumental decision to be made here in the protection of people across North Wales and the future generation after 2015. You've got obligations to that. And I feel by bringing in option 1A, you're moving away from it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rhonda. I've got 3 other members indicating they want to speak, and then I do want to draw the debate to a close so we can actually then move to the vote. And I also want to give the Chief Fire Officer the opportunity to comment before we do that. So, Councillor Brian Apsley.
Thank you, Chair. I don't think anybody around this table wants to go to judicial review, but as option 4 came as a result of discussions at the working group, why can't we defer a decision, or in fact have a vote on the validity of option 1 against option 4, pursue further consultation with the public, which wouldn't put us in jeopardy with a judicial review. Councillor Evans spoke very well, Councillor Jones, and now Rondo has mentioned the fact that we haven't consulted with the public, and we haven't consulted the public on 1A either. So there's nothing to suggest that as option 4 came from discussions with the working group, it's got the same validity as option 1A. Thank you.
Here.
Thank you, Brian. Councillor John Brimmer-Hughes, Penanda.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to back what Councillor Gwynfor Owen said. We've had the consultation. I don't know what happened up in Deeside or Hill, but I can tell you that I had a full hall here, a full hall everywhere else in the area. And I have also talked to many members of the fire brigade in the local area. I have family connections with them. My son himself was a fireman. And I think we've got to consider all of North Wales and not just Deeside and Hill. And as Llandudno and Colwyn Bay have proved, it does work, the day cover. So I will go with option 1A. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And the last member who's indicating he wants to speak, Councillor Rob Triggs. Good to see you, Rob.
Hi, thank you everybody for your contribution so far. What's coming across to me straight away is we have like a bit of a northeast and south Gwynedd divide here on cover. I'm a little concerned that this proposals for South Gwynedd don't address night cover, so there's no guarantee of retained availability. I'm fearful that there's been no trial. I'm a little bit peeved with the mapping thing that came through, because I don't think both of them covered the distances to what we wanted. So I'm probably going to agree with Rondo Roberts here and recommend that we pull the vote for today and pending further discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Right. I'm going to invite the Chief Officer, Dawn Docks, to bring the closing comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Since becoming Chief Fire Officer in 2021, my intention has always been to have a mature working relationship with members of the Fire Authority, to be open, to be honest, and to be truthful. And sometimes that has meant I've had to bring bad news to you, And for that reason, I didn't want to hide the current state of emergency cover in our rural areas. I wanted to do something about it. And once you knew the risks, you wanted to do something about it as well. Not simply because as the Fire and Rescue Authority, it's your statutory responsibility to do so under the Fire and Rescue Services Act in 2004. It's because it's the right thing to do for our communities. Now, you can be confident that the decision that you make today is based upon facts provided by your professional advisors, expert advice from external consultants, and support by a robust public consultation, which has also been accompanied, and you've heard today, from legal advice from both the clerk and from CAPSPICS. We have done everything we can to support clear decision making, to cut through the noise and to give you the confidence to make a decision based on facts. We've had 9 working groups in which we have considered many options. And yes, I would have liked to have brought an option that was a consensus option between ourselves and the FBU, but that has not been possible. And we have tried to reset those working relationships. Option 4 came late in the day, and it is not a viable option. If we could have had a better option that both of sides could have supported, then I know everybody would have been in a much better position to make a decision. But today we must make a decision, a collective decision for the good of the whole of North Wales. And therefore, the option 1A suggests a reconfiguration by placing whole-time firefighters to make sure that we're guaranteeing at least 12 strategic locations during the day to make us and our communities resilient for the future, and to make sure that we're in the right place when we're dealing with the impacts of climate change and emerging technology. Thank you, Chair. Can I conclude by asking for permission to bring in the Chief Fire and Rescue Advisor for Wales, Dan Stevens, for a comment?
Yes, I think it would be disrespectful if we didn't allow him to comment if he wishes to do so as he's attending the meeting. Dan, do you want to say anything?
Thanks, Chair. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to comment. I think firstly, Chair, I'd just like to take the opportunity to commend officers and members for what's been an extremely comprehensive and thorough consultation process. You've all clearly invested significant time and effort in that process, and that is to your credit. So I would say well done to you all for that. Just in respect of the matters that you're giving consideration to today, I think the professional advice that the Chief has just spoken to, and also the monitoring officer in respect of the different options, that is clearly sound, and I would strongly recommend that that's followed. I guess turning to the issues of substance, the Chief has highlighted gaps there in your existing cover model. It is the reality, therefore, that you cannot not know now what you know. So it is the case that that quite rightly you are going to take steps to address that insofar as you are able to, given the fact that you are absolutely operating with a finite resource, and you are starting from what is a very lean model from the outset. I guess the only comment I could make there, if it by way of giving some reassurances to members, the proposals as they relate to Deeside and Rhyl. I myself, when I was the Chief Officer of Merseyside Fire and Rescue Service, I've made almost identical changes to 4 fire stations, including 2 within inner city Liverpool, where whilst the circumstances were different, the reasons were ostensibly the same. It was to secure the most effective response model with what is a finite and limited, in this instance, a whole-time resource. So I can commend the logic and the rationale that supports the recommendations, because it is something that I've done myself. So I will pause at that point, Chair, but hopefully that will be of some use to members and their deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan, for your comments. I'm going to hand over to Mr. Gareth Owens as the clerk now to conduct the vote on the 4 recommendations that are before you. Thank you, Gareth.
So, thank you, Chair. In terms of the process, I have a list of councillors alphabetically. I will go through that list and ask how the council wishes to vote, for, against, or abstain. And then at the end, Chair, I'll tot up the numbers and give you the result of the vote. There was a question in the chat, Chair, about what happens if this motion falls. And I have reiterated the position that I think we reached at the start of the meeting, which was that if this motion falls, then you would then move to Councillor Jeff Evans and bring Councillor Jeff Evans' motion that this item is deferred back to the table. So, Councillor Brian Apsley.
Against.
Councillor Bateman. Councillor Marion Bateman.
So sorry. We're voting on 1A, are we, Gareth, just to be precise?
Collectively, you're voting on the 4 recommendations that are written on the paper that were moved en bloc by Councillor Paul Cunningham. That includes option 1A, yes.
Thank you. Against.
Thank you. Councillor Carol Beard.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Michelle Blakely Walker.
Against.
Diolch. Councillor Tina Claydon.
Abstain.
Thank you. Councillor Cunningham.
For, and I haven't been railroaded.
Councillor Adele Davis-Cook.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Sharon Dolman. Councillor Dolman, are you there? I thought I saw her on the...
For.
Thank you. I think this might be your first full authority meeting as well, isn't it? Welcome to the authority.
Thank you.
Councillor Jeff Evans.
Against.
Councillor Chrissy G.
Chair, I think Councillor G's having a problem allowing us to hear her audio, but...
Can I just come in there, Chair? Sorry, I've just literally had a text message of Chrissy G saying she's lost connection, but she has given me her vote on the phone, so I don't know whether that counts or not.
Chair, a member has to be in the meeting to be able to vote.
She is in the meeting.
I am prepared to come back, Chair. We can move over Councillor Chrissy G's vote at the moment. Come back to her at the end. Give her a chance to reconnect if Councillor Sylvester is able to communicate that back to her. I'll move on, Chair, and we'll come back to Councillor G at the end, because she was in the meeting at the beginning. Councillor Sylvester put that she was having problems, and we wouldn't want to exclude anybody at this stage, would we? Councillor Alan Hughes.
Abstain.
Abstain. Thank you. Councillor Chris Hughes. I don't think he's on the meeting. Councillor Brynmore Hughes.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Gareth Jones.
Obliged. For.
Councillor John Ivan Jones.
For.
Councillor Mark Jones.
Against.
Councillor Gwynfor Owen.
O blaid, 4.
Yeah. Councillor Beverley Parry-Jones.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Rees. Dylan Rees, Chair. You're on mute, Chair.
Sorry, 4.
Thank you. Councillor Arwen Harold Roberts.
O blaid, 4.
Thank you. Councillor Austin Roberts.
O blaid, 4.
Thank you. Councillor Gareth A. Roberts.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Rondo Roberts.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Paul Rogers.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Gareth Sandilands.
Abstain.
Thank you. Councillor Sylvester.
Against.
Thank you, Dale. Councillor Rob Triggs.
Against.
Thank you. And Councillor Mark Young.
4.
Thank you. So I'm going to go back to Councillor Chrissy G. Has she been able to re-establish her connection?
She's still trying to get the connection, Gareth. However, she did say she was willing to call you personally to give a vote if that's possible at all.
I can see that she is technically in the meeting. Councillor G, are you able to put it into the chat? Or indeed, if she can telephone my mobile, then, Chair, I'm quite happy to hold my mobile to the microphone so that people can hear how she votes. Because I don't want to lose any votes on an important issue like this, Chair.
Gareth, can you send me your can you tell me your mobile number is, and I'll send it over to Chrissy G.
Certainly. Bear with me one moment. So, Councillor Sylvester, I have just texted you my mobile phone number.
Thank you very much, Gareth. I'll send it straight over to her now. Thank you.
Thank you. And Chair, just to explain my caution in doing that, I use a personal mobile. I don't use an authority phone number, an authority mobile. So I didn't wish to give my personal phone number over a public meeting. Chair, those who've been keeping count whilst we have been going through the vote will know that we have a clear result. There is only one vote in it at the moment. So depending upon the way Councillor G votes, it may be that you will need to exercise your casting vote. Chair, I have signal. I haven't had a call. I'm conscious that everybody is sitting here.
Gareth, I suspect that Councillor G is voting against. I think Councillor Dale Sylvester can probably confirm that. Is that your understanding, Dale?
I can confirm that, and I can confirm Chrissy G's just opened the message now about with Gareth's phone number.
So, Chair, if that were to be the case, then that would not alter the outcome.
That's fine. So it seems clear, Gareth, that we have that the recommendations have been rejected
So that is
on the basis of the vote.
It's 11-4, Chair, 12 against and 3 abstentions. So yes, indeed, Chair, it has been rejected, and indeed that position would be strengthened if Councillor G were to vote. So, Chair, you at that you did say at the outset then that you would take Councillor Jeff Evans' motion, and indeed, Chair, in preparing for this meeting, as officers, of course, we had discussed that if we reached this position, the chief herself would be suggesting that we go back and we work with members to try and find a solution that members are happy with. I don't know whether you wish to call the chief in, Chair.
Yes, can I invite the chief to come in and to express her views as to the possible way forward? Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members, for your decision. I've heard your views today, and I'm sure our imperative remains to address fair and sustainable emergency cover in rural areas. It's important, not to us, but to our communities that we serve. Therefore, I propose members to continue to work with all stakeholders, including the FBU, to develop a new permanent solution to bring back to you, to the Fire Authority, in 2024. And if I might, Chair, propose an alternative recommendation, that it would be that members request that officers continue to work with all stakeholders to develop a new permanent option, taking into consideration today's decision and the limit of the proposed budget.
Thank you, Chief. Councillor Evans says he's happy to move the Chief's revised recommendation. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Mark Young, I see you seconded that. I hope that everybody is supportive of that new proposal in terms of moving forward. Can you just show by raising your virtual hands or your actual hands? That is clearly carried. Can I thank everybody for their participation today? I knew that there was going to be disagreement in the meeting, but I think we've disagreed well, and we all agree that we need to work together on the way forward. To those of you who aren't attending the executive panel meeting very shortly, can I wish you Nadolig Llawen, a blwyddyn newydd dda, a happy Christmas and a happy New Year. And for those of you who are attending the executive panel meeting, we'll have a comfort break and we'll